Long before the skies themselves were sundered and islands floated above the earth, this world was a place of intricate balance, a realm where magic and technology coexist in harmony. The veins of the planet pulsed with Vive, a living, flowing energy that seeped from the core of the world itself. Vive was not merely a tool, it was the lifeblood of everything, powering machines, illuminating cities, and even shaping the potential of those who could harness it. This energy, mingled with the natural Fey magic, allowed the civilization to create Fey tech, a form of technology that seemed indistinguishable from sorcery. Societies flourished in sprawling cities, where scholars, engineers, and mages studied the flow of Vive, seeking to harmonize its energy with daily life. Humans, Fey, and hybrid creatures called wildlings lived in structured societies, while academies charted the limits of magical physics, and observatories tracked the subtle pulses from the planet's core. But this era of harmony was not to last. Deep in the veins of the world, a darkness stirred. The abyssals, enigmatic and destructive forces, emerged from the unseen depths, their motivations inscrutable to all who lived above. No council, no scholar, no diplomat could converse with them. They were chaos made flesh. Their advance was merciless, consuming cities, forests, and even the academy itself. The people of the world, for all their technological marvels and magical understanding, were unprepared. Panic spread, and entire cities were laid to waste. Structures that had stood for centuries were reduced to ash. Scholars at the academy documented the events as they unfolded, but even they could not fully grasp the scale of the calamity. It was in this time of unprecedented crisis that the first whispers of the Rising emerged. A cataclysmic event intended to save the world. The Rising would lift entire swaths of land into the sky, carving islands from the broken surface below, and in doing so, vent vast quantities of Vive into the atmosphere. Rising was not a natural phenomenon. It was a desperate, calculated act of magic by an immensely powerful group. Their purpose was to save what remained of life from annihilation by the abyssals, yet, as with any act of such scale, the consequences were profound, permanent, and unpredictable. The creation of the Soulborn was one such response. Humans transformed by elemental magics, Soulborn were imbued with powers far beyond normal comprehension. Survivors of the Abyssal's attacks who had been exposed to massive concentrations of Vive. Among them was Krista, a reactor engineer who worked with her father. Her diaries recount the moment that changed everything. Dad would have been 55 years old today. I still wonder why he became a Soulborn and he didn't. We were both right there in the plant when it happened. The Earth split open. Our half of the plant flew skyward, and the half responsible for cooling it stayed behind. If we'd had just a few more minutes, I don't think there would have been a meltdown. Then I wouldn't be made of nuclearite and Dad would still be around. But of course, that's not how it happened. The important thing is moving forward. Krista's transformation was not unique. Survivors whose very bodies had been fused with elemental forces during the Rising. This connection to Vive allowed them to wield powers far beyond ordinary humans. The Abyssal's attack acted as a catalyst, forcing humanity to embrace transformations that they had once feared or considered impossible. The Abyssal's assault also forced some of the greatest minds and guardians of the world into direct confrontation with catastrophe. Heroes, scholars, and soldiers were thrown into chaos. The Fey and hybrid beings, older and wiser than humans, watched as civilizations teetered on the edge of extinction. For some, like Void, the long-lived Fey, the calamity was a test of patience and judgment over centuries. For the first few centuries, you're restrained and patient. But the centuries stack up, and though there are bright spots, the same sorts of people keep making the same sorts of mistakes. So you begin, for the first time in your life, to truly use your power. But it doesn't work. The obstacle proves to be the same short-sighted people whose lives you're attempting to improve. Void's perspective reveals that the Abyssals were not the only threat. The limitations and failings of civilization itself were just as destructive. Communities that survived the Abyssal and the Rising were irreparably altered. Entire villages were destroyed, and the survivors were scattered. Shrike, for example, was the last survivor of a village protected by a hawk spirit. She was not present when her village was destroyed, but the memory of its loss shaped her every action. It was in this fragmented world that factions arose, organized around ideology, protection, and the control or study of Vive. One of these factions is the Risen Empire. We hear about it from the outside perspective in Chris's diary. Risen Empire warships appeared off Havengard's loading docks and demanded we give up those refugees. When the world fractured and the skies rose, some sought order amidst the chaos. The Risen Empire was born from that desire, a nation that survived the Rising and rebuilt its rule upon the floating remnants of what was. Now, its banners drift among the clouds, painted in gold and iron. The Empire enforces control over the fragmented world, sending warships to reclaim resources and refuges, claiming to bring stability. Even in Havenshard, far from the imperial capital, people speak the name of the risen empire with a mix of awe and fear. Krista herself watched the empire's ships blockade her city. But Krista not only mentions the risen empire, she mentions Havenshard, one of the few places left for escape and peace on this broken planet. The Haven Guard protects the Havenshard. Their mission was clear: to ensure the survival of the population, maintain order, and defend against threats from abyssals, rogues, rogue soulborn, and hostile sky islands. A few key members and playable characters that joined Haven Guard to protect the peace were Myth Shrike, Zeph, a Fae far older than he appears, whose wisdom and magic provided strategic insight for the faction. Oath, who was discovered by Zeph. He joined Haven Guard and maybe ancient technology, as he wasn't found until after the Rising. And Aluna, a moon priestess whose entire community perished during the Rising. Her people worshipped the moon as a god. During the events of the Rising, Aluna's community, including her, died. And by the way, the moon exploded. Seemingly Krista is also part of Haven Guard, as we see from her diary. Returning to Havenshard after a few missed entries, I did have a pretty good hunt with Shrike, Aluna, and Myth. Myth might be rude and kinda creepy, but wow is she good with that bow. Not to mention her spooky forest powers. I'm happy to have her on our side. The third and surely not final, but less specifically mentioned faction is the Sunswept Dominion. We can learn more about the Sunswept Dominion through Saros. The story of Saros begins not in whispers, but in blinding light. In the 5th month of the 7th year of the reign of King Manos, the herald Saros appeared in our court. The court of King Manos, proud ruler of an unnamed terrestrial kingdom, was accustomed to reverence, silence, and obedience. Yet that calm shattered the day Saros of the Sunswept Dominion walked into their hall. At that time, King Manos was passing judgment upon the condemned. Saros, striding unarmed ahead of the guards who'd admitted him, interrupted the discussion with the cursory bow and a question verging on a shout. "Greetings! Are you the ruler of these lands?" The court, shocked at this intrusion, whispered in terror. Even the condemned man awaiting sentence stopped trembling. King Manos, seated upon his holographic throne and surrounded by attendants, Fey-enhanced Shock-Lance-armed bodyguards, reacted with fury. "Insolent knave," cried King Manos. "Prostrate yourself. Urge a minister at the herald's side." But Saros said, "I kneel only for my queen. I prostrate myself for no one." Here we see the unyielding conviction that defines Saros' character. He is not merely his messenger, he is a devotee, an evangelist of something greater. The Sun Incarnate, Queen Helia, the radiant ruler of the Sunswept Dominion. Even as Manos' guards advance with sparkling lances, the herald does not flinch, but Manos, perhaps sensing something divine, halts their attack and commands Saros to deliver his message. "We'll have it out," he said. "What message do you bring?" Saros' reply changes the fate of that kingdom forever. "I am Prince Saros of the Sunswept Dominion," said the herald. "I come to ask when you will travel to my homeland, so that you may pledge your fealty to join us as a vessel." This statement confirms several crucial lore points. Saros is a prince, not just a soldier. He serves Queen Helia, a living incarnation of the sun. The Sunswept Dominion is an expansionist power that seeks to unify the shattered lands under Helia's divine rule. The court burst into murmurs. King Manos, once a conqueror who had defeated and slain 3 remaining greatest rivals, crushing their armies and adding their territories to his own, cannot fathom the arrogance of this emissary. "And if I decline," he managed. "I would advise against it," said Prince Saros. "The world was shattered, and the sun looked down upon it in despair, so she came to us in flesh. It is according to her that we will reunite the world. You can no more stop us than prevent the sun from rising." "Understand me, herald," said King Manos. "I have slain abyssals, flattened mountains, defeated untold armies. There is only one divine chosen monarch of these shattered realms, and it is me." The attendants rushed him, but then, sliding, he fetched the nearest soldier a tremendous kick. That man flew backward as if hurled from a cannon. A flare erupted from his chest, snapping hot and impossibly bright, and threw them back. He got the knife in a glowing hand and melted it, as fire leaked howling from his orange eyes. The court becomes a chamber of molten light and terror. One by one, the king's elite are broken, their weapons melted. Saros stands alone amid the wreckage, bored, his power barely exerted. The 6th month of the 7th year of his most illustrious reign, King Manos departed with a small retinue for the capital of the Sunswept Dominion, where he swore fealty to Queen Helia, the Sun Incarnate. That's all directly from Saros' lore page and the Supervive wiki. Krista is another character who has plenty of lore in her wiki. She has one full diary entry. Krista is basically a walking nuclear reactor. She wears special gloves to keep from accidentally vaporizing whatever she touches. The lighthouse, which I'll go into more detail about later, is both her anchor and stage. Here, she measures her abilities, confronts her past, and ensures the safety of her allies. Krista hones her mastery over Vive and Nuclearite, protecting both herself and her allies, as described in her diaries. I started pushing Nuclearite into the gash in the tree. After a while, it became very bright above me. Magireactive veins coursing up the trunk and Nuclearite leaves sprouting from the branches. Myth smiled. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," I said. "So I guess we might be friends." Another resident of Haven Shard includes lead scientist Winterdrew, who is mentioned multiple times in Krista's diary, as well as seems to be the author of Bebo Study. Category Academy 02. Title: Research Notes on Anomaly 33330, aka Bebo. Author: L.S. Winterdrew. Perplexing. Light absorptive properties of subject's cowl directing high-powered light source, HPLS, into cowl aperture fails to illuminate interior. Provokes violent displays of anti-HPLS sentiment. Cudgel explosives. Subject speaks language lacking roots in any of 13,000 Academy-owned linguistic tomes. Translation efforts led by senior researcher Amphos have met with difficulties and loss of 3 interns. Sucked into so-called matter ball. Provisional chromatology suggests internal mass of 33330's matter ball is on the order of 1 to 10 planets. Whatever tech contains this matter, we are, for self-evident reasons, incentivized to keep it functioning. By the way, Bebo's original design was a penguin. There are also many other villages and factions such as wildlings, which Felix is one of. In the Skylands age after the Rising, there lived a wildling unlike any other. Among the bright flame foxes, fire was not just an art, it was life itself. To breathe was to burn, to grow was to blaze, their kind danced with embers, their cities shimmered with light. But Felix, the son of that radiant people, was born without a spark. Felix is a bright flame fox, a race of wildlings who wield fire magic. Felix, somewhat uniquely, did not. He watched his kin conjure infernos from thin air while he stood in the shadow of their brilliance. No heat, no glow, only a mind that refused to cool. If the world denied him fire, he would build one himself. Felix turned to invention, scavenging scraps of Phaetech and Vive-infused alloys from the ruins scattered across the floating world. One night, eager to prove himself, Felix returned to his village to unveil his masterpiece, a device that could breathe flame without magic, his flamethrower. Felix was then exiled from his village after he accidentally burned it down, attempting to show his inventions. So he wandered alone, branded as a fox who burned his own kin. He sought meaning in the ruins of the Skylands. Somewhere along his journey, he found something sentient, a little flame creature named Embry, an elemental manifestation of magic released during the Rising. All of these characters and more culminate in one structure, the lighthouse. The lighthouse is likely an ancient monolith imbued with self-guiding magic, which always moves toward the next convergence of a Supervive. Well, what is a Supervive? Well, it's the driving force of the entire game, an intense, massive burst of Vive from the planet's core. When the Supervive occurs, if someone would be there, it would likely grant them power that could change the world, save the world, defeat the abyssals, destroy the world, take control. Different motives drive different people. And that's what the game is truly about. All of these characters culminate, for different reasons, whether bad or good, to the lighthouse, which always knows where the next Supervive will be. And so, they fight to be the last one standing, to be alive when the Supervive takes place. The lore even includes what happens when a character dies and how they're able to survive. Here, hunters can be bound to the lighthouse by performing some sort of magic ritual at the lighthouse. If they die near it, they respawn at it instead. The announcer's voice in-game is also said to be the lighthouse itself. Hunters all the way from Bishop, who was outfitted with a combat suit crafted with Hudson's help, whose main goal is to fight pirate threats, as well as Bebo, Krista, Myth, Brawl, whose sword he found by chance and bound itself to him, named Caldera, and even Void, who we heard about earlier and has his own lore excerpts. So you try, and are called a monster and a tyrant. You try and are outnumbered and defeated many times by so-called heroes in bedazzled suits of armor. But you always get back up and try again. So that's Supervive's lore in its entirety, or at least what I could find out about it. I'm sure there's many aspects of the lore that I missed out on, or possibly just never paid attention to, and there's probably a lot more just inside the game that I never noticed. Either way, I hope I did a good job going through at least the bulk of it. I know that the devs themselves and many writers, and especially the lead narrative designer, Justin Groot, put a lot of passion and thought into this game, into the world, into the stories, into the characters. And I hope Theorycraft can find more to do that still uses this story, still uses these characters, and pushes forward with all that they've created. So this is my goodbye, at least for now, to a wonderful game. And I hope this gives you all a little bit more closure. Thank you.